So, um, have you ever had like a really rough night out that just ended with this massive, life-altering wake-up call?
Oh, yeah.
You know the exact kind of night I'm talking about,
Right.
right? Where you make just a series of highly questionable decisions.
Usually involving alcohol.
Oh, almost always.
Yeah.
And you ignore every single red flag.
Yeah.
You end up somewhere you absolutely should not be, and then right when you are at your lowest, most vulnerable point.
A rock bottom.
Exactly, the rock bottom. Usually nursing this world-class headache and just a stomach full of regret.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when reality doesn't just, like, knock on your door.
No, it kicks it
It
down.
kicks the door completely off its hinges and demands your immediate attention.
It really is, it's the ultimate collision, right, between our own foolishness and the unavoidable demands of the real world, because we spend so much energy trying to outrun our responsibilities.
Yeah.
We bury them under distractions or, in many cases, intoxication. But when that collision finally happens, the resulting clarity can be truly staggering.
Oh, for sure.
The illusions you've built around yourself just instantly evaporate. You're just left with the mess.
And that feeling, that sudden, violent sobering up, that is the exact foundation of where we are taking you today. Because today, we are jumping headfirst into a really fascinating slice of the universe of dystopia.
A fantastic universe.
It really is.
Yep.
And specifically, we've got our hands on the source material for Chapter 8. This is a segment known as The Prince and the Pigmen of the Bounty Cavern.
Quite the title.
Right. And we aren't just going to breeze through this. We are putting this text under a microscope today.
Yeah. The mission of this deep dive isn't just to tell you a cool story. We really want to dissect exactly how high fantasy narratives use these drastic, sudden tonal shifts.
No, they have been so fast.
They do. We want to figure out how a story can move from absolute slapstick, gross-out comedy to this epic, world-altering destiny in a matter of, mere sentences.
Which is so hard to do well.
The mechanics of that whiplash are incredibly difficult for a writer to pull off. I mean, you are essentially asking the reader to laugh at a circus act one moment and then feel the absolute existential dread of a creeping horror thriller the next.
Yeah.
And to understand how that works, you kind of need to realize that you cannot have the high of the epic destiny without the extreme low of the tavern floor. We have to understand the pathetic state of the protagonist before we can appreciate the magnitude of what he is actually being asked to do.
Right. Okay. Let's unpack this, because the protagonist we're dealing with here is Prince Dillanium Dracoffey.
A very royal-sounding name.
Extremely. He's the son of King Draco. And just saying that name, Dillanium Dracoffey, you immediately picture velvet capes.
Oh, absolutely. Capes, polished swords, pristine marble floors.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But right now in this chapter, the prince is doing none of that. He is spectacularly drunk.
Beyond drunk.
Yeah. And he is locked inside the local bounty cavern, and he is just bitterly, venomously cursing his own protectors for his predicament.
It's pathetic, really.
It is. It feels like we are looking at an incredibly spoiled, wealthy heir whose entourage somehow let him get arrested at the seediest, most dangerous dive bar in the city. You know the kind of place.
Oh, where the floor is permanently sticky?
Yes. Sticky floors, the air smells like stale ale and copper, and absolutely nobody cares who your father is.
And the environment he is in is crucial to establishing that rock bottom we talked about, because the text specifically calls it a bounty cavern.
Right.
This isn't just the kingdom's local holding cell. It's not a standard castle dungeon.
Sure.
The use of the phrase bounty cavern implies this underground, rugged ecosystem. It's a place where mercenaries, outlaws, the absolute dregs of society bring their captured targets to collect coin.
It's dirty.
It's lawless, it's damp, and it is entirely unsuited for royalty. The irony of a man who should be sleeping on, imported feather beds now lying on the cold stone floor of a bounty cavern, it's just palpable.
And he's just sitting there in the drunk tank, completely stripped of his royal privilege. And instead of taking, even an ounce of accountability for how he got there,
Of course not.
he is entirely focused on blaming his bodyguards. And we really need to examine these bodyguards, because they are one of the most bizarre and fascinating elements of this entire world.
They really steal the scene.
They do. The companions the prince is cursing are named Podge and Pickle.
Great names.
And the text describes them as Orcrikai, born twin boar-pig men.
Yeah, just the hyphenation of Orcrikai tells a whole story right there.
Doesn't it? It sounds almost engineered.
It really does. It evokes this sense of hybridity, of a rugged, perhaps magically altered lineage that combines the brutal, tactical strength of an orc with the feral, unstoppable nature of a boar.
It's terrifying.
And they serve a very specific dual role for the prince, which creates this massive contradiction in the text. Because on one hand, they are heavily armored soldiers. The text really emphasizes that they are dressed in full armor attire, which implies they are meant for serious combat, physical protection.
Yeah, they aren't just valets.
Exactly. But on the other hand, they are acting as protecting advisors. They are meant to guide him.
Yeah.
Yet the prince characterizes them as dull and half-witted.
Which, honestly, that makes me question the leadership of the kingdom.
How so?
Well, if these two Podge and Pickle are truly these dull, half-witted, tusk-faced mutts like the prince says, why on earth would a powerful monarch like King Draco assign them to protect his only royal son?
That is the million-dollar question.
It just feels like there are only two possibilities here, right? Either Podge and Pickle are actually secretly brilliant and they're just playing dumb to manage a really difficult VIP,
Right.
or the king is actively punishing the prince by assigning him the most frustrating, socially inept bodyguards in the entire kingdom.
I think we have to consider the psychology of King Draco for a moment here.
Let's do it.
If you have an heir who is prone to wandering into taverns and getting wildly intoxicated, assigning him highly sophisticated, politically savvy royal guards might actually backfire.
Oh, that's true. He'd just pull rank on them.
Exactly. The prince would just manipulate them or use his royal status to override their advice. I'm the prince, let me drink.
Yeah.
But by assigning him armored boar pig men, the king is employing this form of extreme tough love.
I love that.
Because Podge and Pickle are physically capable of taking a hit if a tavern brawl breaks out.
Which it obviously did.
Right. But they are intellectually unbothered by the prince's royal tantrums. They might be half-witted in the ways of court politics, sure.
Yeah.
But they might possess a type of grounded survivalist wisdom that the prince, in his privileged arrogance, is just completely blind to.
That makes a lot of sense. They are basically a physical barrier against his own stupidity.
Precisely.
He thinks they are the problem because they aren't catering to his ego. But he's the one who got them locked in a bounty cavern in the first place. So to really get a feel for this dynamic, we can't just talk around it. We actually have to hear the raw text.
You do.
Because we need to hear the specific vocabulary, the cadence of their speech, and the exact way that they bicker.
Because the author's syntax here is doing heavy lifting.
Oh, massive heavy lifting.
The pacing of their dialogue entirely informs the comedic tone that is, spoiler alert, about to be completely shattered.
Right. So we're going to do something a little different for you today. We're going to bring this script to life.
Yes.
We're going to read the exact dialogue written in the source material. No summarizing, no paraphrasing, just the raw text from Chapter 8.
I'm ready.
Okay, so I'm going to take on the role of the incredibly angry, slurring, intoxicated Prince Dillanium. And you can take the roles of Podge and Pickle.
Perfect. I will adopt a stoic, clinical, almost deadpan tone for the pigmen, because the text heavily suggests they are completely unfazed by his outburst.
Okay, I am channeling every ounce of entitled drunken rage I can muster here.
Let's hear it.
Let's set the scene mentally first so you can picture it. The prince is lying on the floor of the holding cell. He's furious. He's probably clutching his pounding head.
Yep.
And Podge and Pickle are standing just out of sight in the corridor listening to him rant. Okay, here is the direct quote from the prince. Ready?
Ready.
Podge and Pickle, a very ugly pair of hairy, dull, half-witted, tusk-faced pair of sister tits that managed to get me locked up in this place. The best of friends you surely are. You born pig mutts, I should have never picked you up.
The prince is still upset, Podge said. Yep. And he is still drunk, Pickle replied. It's best if we leave him a little longer, Podge said.
Okay, let me just pause this right there.
Sure.
Because the contrast is already hitting me over the head. The prince is absolutely stewing in this haze of toxic energy.
He really is.
He strings together this incredibly long, breathless insult. Hairy, dull, half-witted, tusk-faced. He is exerting so much emotional energy trying to hurt their feelings.
And their response is basically a weather report.
Yes, exactly.
Notice the rhythm of what you just read as the prince. The prince's dialogue is a massive run-on sentence.
It's exhausting just to read.
It is frantic, it's comma-heavy, it's chaotic, completely reflecting his intoxicated mental state. He is grasping for every single derogatory term he can find.
Yeah.
But then look at the structure of Podge and Pickle's response. It is short, declarative, and entirely objective.
Yeah, the prince still upset.
Right. Yep, and he is still drunk. There is zero emotional reaction to being called a born pigmutt or a pair of sister tits.
Which is just infuriating. If you are throwing a tantrum, the one thing you want is a reaction.
You want engagement.
Right. You want the other person to get mad back so you can fight.
Yeah.
But Podge and Pickle are emotionally bulletproof.
They really are.
It's like listening to two parents calmly standing outside a grocery store aisle discussing what to do with a toddler who's currently screaming face down on the linoleum floor.
That is the perfect analogy.
They don't even address him directly. They just have this side conversation about him while he is screaming into the void.
And the physical positioning is vital here, too. The text states they are standing out of sight.
Oh,
They are actively denying him an audience. He is physically locked in a stone cell, but he is also emotionally isolated by his companion's refusal to engage with his toxicity.
which just makes him madder, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And this isolation sets the stage for the rest of their conversation, which reveals exactly why he is in this cell to begin with. Shall we continue with their dialogue?
Yes, let's hear what they plan to do with him.
A little bit longer to get back to sober, for after the announcing his love for the tavern's barmaid, whom is 7 times his age, Pickle noted, 7 times his weight, Podge added. 7 times his beauty, Pickle countered. 7 times he's been kicked out, Podge said.
Apologies, Pickle offered. Agreed. Apologized. Podge nodded. A little bit longer to get to sober, Pickle finalized.
Yeah. Then a bath of powdered moths, Podge agreed. Yeah, Pickle affirmed. Then we can eat the moths after, Pickle concluded. Agree, said Podge. Agreed, said Pickle.
Okay, wow. There is a massive amount of world building hidden inside that incredibly bizarre exchange.
So much to unpack there.
First of all, the crime itself. He didn't assassinate a rival lord.
No.
He didn't start a political rebellion against his father. He drunkenly confessed his love to a tavern barmaid.
A very mundane crime.
But the way they describe her, this rule of sevens.
Yes.
7 times his age, 7 times his weight, 7 times his beauty. Wait, looking at this rule of sevens,
Yeah.
7 is usually a deeply sacred number in fantasy.
It is.
It's like the 7th son of a 7th son, the 7 realms, the 7 gods. It feels like the author is actively mocking the prince here by applying divine numerology to a pathetic bar fight.
That is a brilliant observation regarding the numerology. The sacred number is essentially being weaponized for mundane comedy.
Yeah.
You are right. In almost every major mythos or folklore, 7 denotes something mystical, divine, or immensely powerful.
Always.
Here, the author takes that grand sweeping fantasy trope and applies it to a woman scrubbing mugs in a dive bar.
It's hilarious.
It completely punctures the majestic aura that is usually associated with a title like Prince Dillanium Dracoffey. It grounds him in gritty, absurd, very human failure. He isn't embarking on a holy quest. He's getting physically thrown out of a local tavern 7 times because he just won't take a hint.
And the banter is so matter-of-fact. 7 times his beauty.
Right.
The pigmen, who the prince literally just called ugly and tusk-faced a minute ago, are casually mocking his taste. Or, I don't know, maybe they genuinely find this massive, older barmaid incredibly attractive in their culture.
That's entirely possible.
That's just so deadpan. But okay, we really have to talk about the hangover cure. Because that took a turn I was absolutely not expecting.
Moths.
Yes. A bath of powdered moths.
The world-building implications of that single phrase are just staggering.
I am just trying to picture the sheer logistics of this. A bath of powdered moths. What on earth does that entail?
It's a logistical nightmare.
Right. Like, does someone have to go out into the woods with a giant net, catch thousands upon thousands of moths, dry them out in the sun, and then physically grind them up with a mortar and pestle?
Hand-ground moths.
Or can you just, like, walk into a local apothecary and buy a 50-pound burlap sack of powdered moths off the shelf?
You'd hope it's the latter.
Seriously. Imagine the sheer volume of insects required to fill an entire bathtub to the point where a grown man can soak in it.
If we extrapolate based on the text, we are really looking at a highly specific, strange ecosystem in dystopia.
Yeah, definitely.
Moths are nocturnal, they are drawn to light, and in many cultures, they symbolize transformation or decay.
Okay, that's interesting.
Perhaps in this universe, certain species of cave moths possess chemical or magical properties in their scales that literally draw out toxins or alcohol from human skin.
Like a weird charcoal bath.
Exactly. It speaks to a world that is deeply intertwined with its strange flora and fauna. People don't just, drink a glass of water and sleep it off. They use the environment in visceral, almost uncomfortable ways.
Uncomfortable is putting it lightly.
Yeah.
Especially when you get to the actual punchline of that dialogue.
Oh, yes.
Pickle says, then we can eat the moths after.
And Podge just nods along.
Yeah, agreed. The gross-out factor is just off the charts.
It's revolting.
They are talking about letting a sweaty, severely intoxicated man soak in a tub of ground-up insect dust to pull the booze out of his pores.
Yep.
And then they plan to drink the dirty, alcohol-soaked moth water like it's a bowl of soup.
Which perfectly highlights the duality of the Orcrikai that we mentioned earlier.
Oh, totally.
On the surface, they are wearing full forged armor. They speak in a structured, agreeable cadence, constantly confirming with each other. Apologies, agreed, apologize, agree, agreed.
They sound almost polite.
They do. They understand the biological process of sobering someone up.
Yeah.
Yet, underneath that veneer of civilization and duty, they possess these feral, beastly appetites.
Yeah, they're eating bathwater.
They are scavengers at heart.
It perfectly encapsulates the tone of the chapter up to this point, right?
Yeah.
It is basically a fantasy sitcom.
It really is.
You have the grumpy, spoiled royal in the cell, and his gross, weirdly logical pigmen sidekicks hanging out in the hallway discussing drinking bathwater. The reader is lulled into this false sense of comedic absurdity.
You're chuckling. The stakes feel incredibly low.
Yeah, you think you're reading a comedy.
And that is exactly when the trap is sprung.
Yes.
Right when the scene lulls you into that comfortable, rhythmic, comedic banter, the narrative shifts gears with absolutely zero warning. The mechanics of the tonal shift happen right here.
It's so abrupt. The silence of the holding cell, which, by the way, was just filled with the mental image of moth soup, is abruptly shattered.
Shattered.
And it's shattered by a deep, raspy voice. A voice that is heckling with laughter, and is coming from a rock-walled cell across the cold hallway.
The text describes the source of this voice as a mysterious, crocodile-like beast cast in shadow.
Which is terrifying. We literally go from a discussion about drinking dirty bathwater to an ominous, chilling thriller in the span of a single paragraph.
The comedy instantly evaporates.
Completely. And think about where everyone is standing in this scene. The geography of the room is basically telling us the story before the beast even speaks.
How do you mean?
Well, the prince is loud. The pigmen are clanking around in full armor, talking back and forth. They're taking up all the oxygen and all the light in the hallway.
But this beast speaks from the shadows of a rock-walled cell across the hallway.
Right.
It is physically separated from them, dwelling in the dark. In terms of acoustics, stone dungeons echo. The rhythmic staccato bickering of Podge and Pickle, agreed, is suddenly cut through by a deep, raspy, mocking laugh.
It would echo so loudly.
It would. The beast represents the harsh, unavoidable reality that is breaking into the prince's shielded bubble. The prince has been wrapped up in his petty grievances, the barmaid, the uncomfortable cell, his annoying bodyguards. But the beast in the shadow is a jarring reminder that the world outside this cavern is dark, ancient, and deeply dangerous.
And that laugh, it's a heckling laugh.
That's a very specific word choice.
It is. Because it means the beast has clearly been sitting there the whole time, right? Just listening to this spoiled heir whine about his bodyguards and his hangover.
It's been taking it all in.
It's laughing at how small and pathetic Dillanium's problems are compared to what is actually happening in the broader world. It shows that precise moment of absolute vulnerability to deliver a chilling call to action.
A call to action that fundamentally alters the course of the dystopia epic.
Yeah, everything changes here.
It isn't just a monster in a cell, it is a messenger of prophecy.
And it's a heavy prophecy. The beast warns the prince that his father, King Draco, is growing too old.
Which the prince probably doesn't want to hear.
No, not at all. It says the king is too frail to face the coming dangers that are emerging from a place called the Dark Mountain.
Ominous.
Very. And then the beast drops the absolute heaviest burden possible onto this drunk, miserable guy on the floor. It tells him that he is the one who must overcome these odds.
The reluctant heir.
Let me read the exact phrasing the beast uses, because the word choice really stopped me in my tracks when I first read it.
Please do.
The voice says, "Your father cannot overcome what is to come from the dark mountains. It is you, my son, who is the man to overcome these odds, to fight the monsters and beasts that only want freedom so it can be consumed."
To fight the monsters and beasts that only want freedom so it can be consumed.
So, what does this all mean? How can freedom be consumed?
It's a bizarre concept.
It really is. I mean, I've read a lot of fantasy, and usually the monsters want to destroy freedom. They want to enslave the human race or conquer the capital city or plunge the world into 1,000 years of darkness.
Standard villain motives.
Right. But here, the beast specifically says the monsters want freedom. but they want it only so it can be consumed. Is freedom a literal physical energy source in the dystopia universe? Do these creatures literally eat liberty like it's a physical resource?
It is a striking, terrifying paradox. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of how evil operates in literature, it opens up a massive philosophical discussion about the nature of the threat.
I'm all ears.
Think about the definition of consumption. To consume something is to use it up completely, to devour it until there is absolutely nothing left.
Okay.
If these monsters desire freedom only to consume it, it implies they are a force of ultimate mindless gluttony. They don't want freedom so they can live peacefully in the hills. They want the absence of boundaries so they can devour without restriction.
Oh, wow.
True freedom, in the hands of a monster, is just the unchecked liberty to destroy.
It makes me think of like a plague of locusts or a wildfire.
Yes,
The locust doesn't want the freedom of an open field so it can admire the wheat.
No, it doesn't.
It wants the freedom to eat every single stalk until the earth is entirely barren. The monsters from the Dark Mountain want the gates thrown open so they can consume the world until there is nothing left to consume. It's an existential threat, not just a political one.
And consider who this immense world-ending burden is being laid upon.
Oh, right. Our guy Dillanium.
Yes, it is being dropped at the feet of a man who just got kicked out of a tavern 7 times for obsessing over a barmaid.
The irony is so thick.
The contrast between the scale of the threat consuming the world's freedom and the smallness of the protagonist creates incredible narrative tension. This brings into focus the archetype of the reluctant hero, but pushes it to an absolute extreme.
I'd say he isn't just reluctant, he is actively hiding.
He's running away.
Yeah. Looking at his behavior now through the lens of this prophecy, it changes everything about how we view his drunkenness earlier in the chapter.
It recontextualizes the whole scene.
Deep down, Prince Dillanium knows who his father is. He probably knows the rumors about the Dark Mountains. He knows the inheritance waiting for him isn't just a crown, but a brutal, unwinnable war.
Exactly.
So the intoxication, the reckless behavior, picking fights with his armored pigmen, these aren't just the actions of a spoiled brat. They are desperate avoidance tactics. He is terrified.
He is attempting to drown his destiny in tavern ale.
Yeah.
He would rather be a joke, right? A pathetic figure locked in a local bounty cavern than step up and be the savior of the realm.
Because being the savior means you have to face the things that consume freedom.
It means you might fail. And if you fail, the world ends.
That is heavy.
The psychological weight of that is just crushing.
Yeah.
And the beast in the shadows isn't just delivering news, it is systematically stripping away the prince's alibis.
Oh, I like how you phrased that.
By speaking the truth out loud, the beast removes Dillanium's ability to pretend he is just a regular guy with a bad hangover. The time for hiding in taverns or in bathtubs of powdered moths is officially over.
It is over. And just when the prince is hit with this massive, world-shattering reality check, the messenger pulls off an impossible feat.
The final twist of the scene.
Right. After delivering this heavy prophecy, the ultimate sobering moment occurs. The vanishing act.
The physical reality of the space reasserts itself in a very jarring way here.
So the prince, who is obviously understandably shaken by this raspy voice in the dark, questions its origin.
Naturally.
He probably stumbles to his feet, walks to the iron bars of his cell, peers across the cold hallway, and looks into that rock-walled cell where the crocodile beast was just speaking.
And what does he find?
The cell is completely bare, as if no one was ever there.
The entity is simply gone.
Gone.
This leaves the reader and the prince with a multitude of analytical pathways to explore. What exactly just happened? Was the crocodile beast a real physical entity that possesses the magical ability to teleport or turn invisible?
Or, and hear me out, was it a magical projection?
Oh, interesting.
I immediately thought of King Draco. If the king is getting old and frail, maybe he had a wizard in the royal court cast an illusion into the bounty cavern to finally kick some sense into his heir.
A magical intervention.
Yeah, sort of a magically delivered telegram that says, "Stop drinking and get home, we have a war to fight."
Or, perhaps most intriguingly, was the beast entirely internal?
Like a hallucination.
Yes. Was it a manifestation of the prince's own subconscious guilt?
Oh, wow.
Did his deep-seated, repressed knowledge of his father's failing strength and his own neglected duty finally break through his extreme intoxication, causing him to hallucinate this raspy, crocodilian voice in the shadows?
I really want you, the listener, to pause and think about that for a second. Think about a time in your own life where you experienced a sudden, jarring moment, of absolute clarity.
It happens to all of us.
Those moments rarely happen when we were sitting quietly meditating on a mountaintop.
No, they don't.
They usually come from unexpected, almost inexplicable places when we are at our absolute lowest. When we have run out of excuses, when the hangover is at its absolute worst, our own subconscious steps in and says, enough.
The narrative choice to have the beast vanish is brilliant because it serves a dual purpose.
Also,
First, it establishes the presence of high magic in a scene that was previously grounded in mud and dirt and sticky tavern floors.
right.
But, more importantly, by disappearing, the beast strips away the prince's final distraction.
Yes.
If the beast were still sitting there in the cell, Dillanium could argue with it, he could yell at it, call it names, just like he did with Podge and Pickle.
He would definitely do that.
He could focus his anger outward, turning the beast into just another target for his tantrums.
But because the cell is empty, there is no one left to argue with. He can't yell at a bare stone wall. The silence rushes back into the hallway, but it's a completely different kind of silence now.
It is.
Earlier, it was the comedic silence of the pigmen ignoring him. Now, it is the heavy, suffocating silence of truth. He is alone with the prophecy.
Nowhere left to hide.
He has to turn inward and face the reality of his father's aging and the monsters in the dark mountains. He is standing in the cold, staring at an empty room, and his childhood is officially over.
The empty cell acts as a mirror, reflecting back only his own immense responsibility. The genre shift is now totally complete.
Totally.
We have fully departed the slapstick comedy of the tavern brawler and entered the epic life-or-death stakes of the dystopian narrative.
It really is a masterclass in shifting a reader's emotions.
Truly.
We started in the mud. We look at a hilariously pathetic, lovesick, drunken royal lying on the sticky floor of a bounty cavern. We examined the brilliant comedic timing and the rhythmic, bizarre banter of his protectors, Podge and Pickle.
The moth soup.
The moth soup. We went deep into the world-building genius of the Rule of Sevens and the horribly fascinating logistics of a powdered moth bath.
And from that foundation of comedy, we felt the narrative whiplash. The sudden, chilling arrival of the supernatural crocodile beast and the delivery of a massive philosophical wake-up call regarding the consumption of freedom, it completely sets the stage for a legendary quest.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
This text really proves that sometimes you have to sink to the absolute bottom before you can understand what you are actually meant to climb toward.
Indeed. But before we finish today, I want to leave you with one final puzzle to chew on.
Oh, I love a good puzzle.
Something for you to mull over long after this deep dive ends. Consider the beast itself. Let us assume it was real and not hallucination.
Okay, assuming it's real.
If this mysterious crocodile-like entity possessed the magical ability to simply vanish from a locked bounty cavern cell without a trace,
Right.
it implies it was never truly a prisoner at all. It was not bound by those iron bars or those thick stone walls.
Oh, wow. Wait, if it can teleport out, it could have teleported in.
Exactly. So why did it choose to be there?
That is a great question.
Why did a being of such profound power and foresight choose to wait in the damp, freezing, dark shadows of a local, mundane jail?
Just sitting there.
It sat there in the dark, patiently listening to the petty squabbles of a drunk and his armored pigman, just waiting for the absolute perfect moment of vulnerability to deliver this exact message.
Wow.
What unseen forces are truly manipulating Prince Dillanium's epic quest?
I have chills.
If the messengers of prophecy can walk through walls and hide in the shadows of our lowest moments, is the prince truly making his own destiny, or is he merely a piece being moved across an incredibly vast, dark board by players he cannot even comprehend?
That changes the whole story.
Keep an eye on the shadows. You never know what is waiting in the dark, just biding its time until you are finally ready to listen.